Welcome to this month's edition of The Breeze. As you can see, this is going to be a little bit of a different approach based on the way things are here in Sun City right now. Tina and Margie are not in today, and it's just me, and we're sort of in the process of adapting to new technology and a new way to do The Breeze, so look for more changes in the future. But today, I just wanted to make a few observations and then show some interviews with some residents and talk about the situation that we're in. Now, I'm not, a professional at this. I'm just a pop psychologist like everybody else. But I think there's a few observations we all can make about what's going on and what's happening to us in this past 3 or 4 months, maybe even as much as 6 months. But I will tell you that change has been imposed on us. Whether we like it or not, we are in a new era at Sun City TV and in Sun City in general, and there's no turning back. And how you handle that change in lifestyle, or more accurately, in my view, it's a loss of the lifestyle that we signed up for, at least temporarily. Now, some of this is going to be permanent in terms of change. I think we all know that there's going to be a new normal. But basically, it's a sense of loss for all of us. And it's kind of like, if you read all the literature, it's kind of like the 5 stages of grief, which we're all familiar with. Grief is a cycle of emotions that humans can expect to feel when they have a sense of loss. And of course, everybody knows the first stage is denial. And I'm one of the great deniers in life. When I first heard about the COVID-19 virus, I just thought, well, that's somebody else. That's not going to affect us at all. We're just going to rock on here because we are in a lifestyle, we're retired, we're not interacting with people. But why do we deny? Well, the experts would say we deny because we want to avoid the sadness that accompanies a loss. And that could be the loss of a loved one, or the loss of a lifestyle, or an alteration that you have really no control over. And then you add to the uprooting of a lifestyle, you have uncertainty, a little bit of fear and danger, and also the fact that you have no control over it. And that really leads to some reactions which are kind of interesting, and we'll talk more about that later with some of the residents here at Sun City. The second stage is anger. After you get fully aware of the change, a lot of people take the path of least resistance. And that's, they get angry. They change their attitude. Everything just makes them mad. And that's not obviously a real healthy reaction, but it's a pretty natural reaction. And it's one that I've had, and it's one that my neighbors have had. Basically, it's something that we can't really help ourselves sometimes. The problem is that if you are angry and resentful of the fact that you are here for a certain purpose, and that purpose is taken away from you, whether it be your club activities or going out to dinner every night, then you resent that, and sometimes you take it out on others. And I've seen some examples of that, where people are just so angry that it affects their relationships with their family or with their neighbors. And that's not a good thing either. The third stage is kind of is bargaining. You got denial, anger, but then bargaining. Geez, if I change my lifestyle, everything will be okay, right? Or, you're all familiar with bargaining with God. Oh, God, if you'll just do this for me, I'll be a better person the rest of my life. Well, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But the fourth stage is depression. And when you finally it sinks in that you can't control it, and you can't be angry your entire life, then the tendency is to become depressed. I'm not talking about chronic depression, clinical depression, or any of those medical terms you want to use, but basically, it's a depression that's tied to a very real and specific cause. And you need to fight through that. I mean, some people are wondering, will we ever get back to normal? Is this the end? You need to get into the fifth stage, which is acceptance of the situation and the beginning of altering your expectations and establishing new horizons. Sure, it's a pain, and we're all going through it together. But what has happened to you in the last 3-4 months? Have you developed new interests? Have you just sat around and bemoaned the fact that you can't play softball or you can't shoot pool indoors? What has changed? Have you looked at your life? Have you reestablished your value system? What assessments have you made about your retirement and how you're living your retirement? I mean, really, this is almost like when you first retired and moved to Sun City. What a huge change that was. What a huge change. And you must have come in with a little apprehension, a little introspection, deciding how you were going to deal with it. And this isn't much different if you think about it, because this will be over sometime. And then how are you going to be going forward? What have you learned? What have you learned about other people? All of that is something that, you need to deal with, and we need to deal with as a group. The loss of something that's your passion or your retirement lifestyle or whatever you want to call it is something we need to deal with. In Sun City here, I think there's several just observations I would make, and I'm nothing but a pop psychologist, as I say, but I think one of the reactions has been anger and resentment. I'm sitting here, my passions are not being realized, and somebody's over there enjoying themselves. And that really makes me mad. I resent that, and I'm going to do something about it. And that's a very negative reaction. Other people, they just ignore it. They keep doing what they're doing. They're more careful, hopefully, and they're not imposing themselves on other people, but they're not going to let this little interval, this interim, this hiatus, affect what they really have a passion about. I'm going to keep riding my bike, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be a positive, happy person. We already talked about introspection and change. Change is inevitable, and I think many people would say, if you read your AARP magazines like I do, people fear change. They don't want to change. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone or the newly created comfort zone. And I think that is, okay, but it's a natural reaction, but you got to change. You got to deal with it. You got to accept it. And then there's just pure panic and fear. Never leaving my house again. I'm going to cut off relationships with all neighbors. I'm never going to see my family again. And that's pretty negative as well. So what we have done over the past few days is we have tried to talk to some people here at Sun City, talk to them about how they got through the last few months of inactivity, relative inactivity. And I think we got some interesting responses, and I'd like to share them with you now. Well, Chris, it's not exactly a Chamber of Commerce day for tennis, but we are at the tennis facility over here on the south side. And tell me, you had a long time off while the courts were being renovated. You had 3 months of closure. Tell me how the membership got through all that and continued to thrive.
Most of our members have really gone along with everything quite well. Myself personally, tennis is my life. I'm here almost every day. If I'm not here, I'm playing at other clubs on the island. I prefer to play here because the people are so friendly. Our membership is phenomenal here. So what did I learn? We have great people here at Sun City.
How about the membership of the SCTA? Have they come back enthusiastically or are they reluctant?
We have about maybe 10 to 15% that are still very reluctant. The social distancing does scare them still, but for the most part, on a day like a normal day where the sun is out and we have no rain, all 16 courts will be totally full. That's 64 people playing every hour and a half up until about 6:30 at night.
Well, we thank you for your time once again, and Chris, good luck in the future with the club. I know you're doing a great job, and the membership is flourishing, so it's all good.
All right, thank you very much for the time today.
Well, Mitch, it's been a long time, but personally speaking, how have you made it through? I know you're a very active part of this community, and what'd you learn from this hiatus?
Well, I've learned a lot of things. I mean, everybody thinks differently. They think what's going on is when people tell you that you can go back out and do things, you still have to do and take the safety precautions. I mean, with me being president of the softball club, I have the responsibility of over 500 people up there and I'm trying to keep them safe. And they don't understand that just because things are open that it's over. We still have to use masks. We still have to keep the distancing. We have to do things. And it only took a couple photographs of the board going around and checking on things that we had to shut down the dugouts in that. And it's not me or it's not the softball club wanting to do it. It's, trying to keep everybody safe.
Do you think that's part of just an overall desire to get back into the groove of things, or is it sometimes just people ignoring the facts?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think, when you have people that are quarantined or in their houses for 2 months, they go stir crazy. They go, and sometimes they don't use common sense or rationale. It's the same thing. They want to get out, and you can't blame them, but you still have to use common sense.
Now, when you had some downtime, did you find some new interests, or did you embrace technology more? How'd you handle it when, most of the time you're at the softball field, you're a pool monitor, etc.? How'd you handle it?
Well, most of the time, I was fortunate enough to have conversations with my softball board. Was a chance to do things. We're looking at a lot of changes and trying to do that. We have a young, new board that's come on. And yes, I've taken up tennis again. Hadn't played in 20 years. 2 weeks ago, I started on a Tuesday, went on the ball machine, was fine. The next day, I went out with Bob Clary, and he hit baskets of balls, and I practiced serving. The next day, I was in a competitive match, and I was playing against some of the better players, and they were telling me, hey, give yourself another month and you'll be back in it. I mean, I know the strokes, I know what to do, it's just I've been rusty for all this time. So now I'm like a monster, I want to play every day. I've been playing less softball, more tennis right now, but I'm getting enough exercise out here. But, getting back to softball and things like that, I've had time to look at things. We're looking at putting a proposal in to get a snack bar at the field, and I'm looking to put a proposal in to get lights at the field.
Well, that's all good, and it looks like you found some new energy and some new interests, and I think that's part of coping with a situation like this. Is you have to, in my case, sit back and reevaluate what you've been doing and what else you might want to do.
That's true. I mean, it gives a chance to look and soul search and see what you want to do and come up with different things. I mean, I've had a chance to read a little bit more. Okay, I'm not a big reader, but my collection of baseball books is in, almost 1,000 books in my thing. Haven't read them all, but it's given me a chance to read a little bit more. So, if you can't find something to do here in Sun City, that's on you.
Tell me, from a personal perspective, have you slowed down at all, or what are you doing to cope with the crisis personally, and how's it affected your relationships with neighbors and family?
I still come down here and play pool. I play with a friend, with the mask on. but it's affected numerous people, many people. I mean, most people aren't playing anymore.
And what have you learned about other people through this? I mean, or learned about yourself?
I've learned that a lot of people get bored very easily. I don't really get bored. I read, and I'm a runner, biker. I was telling somebody else about that, and that keeps me busy because I work out almost every day and come down here and play some pool in the afternoon. Take care of my yard. I do all my own yard work. So for me, it's not a problem. My neighbors are getting a little crazy. A lot of people are getting crazy because it's just so boring.
Well, as you can see from the resident interviews we just heard, a lot of people have just said, we're going to buckle up and we're going to keep going and we're going to be positive about this. But others, I think, unfortunately, you can talk about hiding, hoarding, and haranguing. That's not good. You need to deal with this in a more realistic fashion. Why did you volunteer to be part of the solution? That's what a lot of people have done. They get out on the front line and make masks, or they volunteer at a food kitchen, or they do something to make them feel more positive about themselves and what they're doing during their time here. I think we all need to focus on what's important to us. Now, you've heard from the leaders of several of the clubs here and what they're doing to make sure their passion continues and to try to get their memberships enthused to return to their passion, and to do so in a way in which takes into account the new normal, but figure out what's important to you. Is there something new that's important to you? What have you done that's changed? You read more? You take up a new hobby? Are you more technologically adept now because of the fact that you can't get out into the open air and do stuff? What do you one of the things that sort of I've observed is that, in myself in particular, is that I've become a little bit lazy. You know, sitting around the house ain't that bad. Are you being lazy? Is that a habit you really want to have? Do you want to binge watch TV the rest of your life? I don't think so. So you need to be careful about, what habits you've developed and how you can break those habits. And as Tina would say if she were here, she would say, I'm just doing my happy. My last thought here is that positivity is a mix of realism, hope, and compassion. And if you are seeking happiness, as we all, I hope, are, then you need to figure out what's in line with your value system. Is it your kindness? Is it your spirituality? Do you appreciate things more in life? Do you step outside on your back patio or lanai and you look at a sunset and say, that's really cool? You look at wildlife differently and say, hey, that's really cool. Or do you just simply grump around all day? I think overall, we're all seeking our state of happiness. And one of the important things, and according, everybody wants to eat well, sleep well, etc., is to stop and appreciate what's going on. Nobody's really trying to rain on your parade. You need to say to yourself, does it really matter? Does that particular nitpick of the day really matter, or can I deal with it? One of the things that people will say about happiness is the value of connection and socialization with people. I'm not social media. That's really kind of isolating in my view. But I will tell you that the value of friendship, the value of communication cannot be underestimated. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to share with you a discussion that Tina and Margie had in a previous show about this value. We talked to some residents about how important it was to them. And this is an excerpt that we'd like to share with you at this time to show you what people think about the value of friendship. Is that I would argue that people who use Facebook or are dependent on it for their social contact or interaction are the loneliest people in the world and some of the unhappiest.
Not true.
Well, I knew you disagree with both, but that doesn't change my opinion.
Yeah, that's your
Still
opinion.
going to be
So
my
we-
friend?
No.
Okay.
No, the reason I say that, some of the people within a social network, like the woman who owns the theater on the North End, or the editor of Pink Magazine, they have a certain connection that I enjoy, because maybe I'm going to an event at Shelter Cove, and I might want to say, hey, are you going to be there? So I use it for activities more than anything. I'm not using it for an intimate friendship.
I do not take new friends, especially if there are people that just might have liked a comment that they saw on the Sun City TV piece. Sun City TV, the Sun City Facebook. So I think as we get older, the purpose changes. I think we need fewer friends, but more valuable friends as we get older.
I think that's a great statement, and I agree with that. And it is difficult to find the right mix, even at this age when you're older and wiser, to really mesh with someone and share the spirit, as you would say, invite them into your spirit. Hi, I'm here with my fellow Breeze panelists, Margie and Tina, outside Purrisburg building, where we are going to attempt to talk to residents about the impact of having good friendships on their happiness and how they might define friendship. We look forward to some interesting answers. You look like a happy person. Do you count good friendships among the happiness formula?
Yes, absolutely. I think that we're all one happy family, and my happiness, a large part, is due to other people. I have a dual personality. I like to be alone many times, but I also like to be with people, a gregarious person. But you know, people can be alone even in a crowd. So you have to be careful what you mean. I love friendships. I have many friendships, and I hope to continue holding those friendships. And I've developed friendships right here in Sun City.
Good friendships are probably what makes me the happiest thing in the world. I would say among my friendships are my dog, which I got after my husband passed away, which has really made life different for me. And I have some very, very close friends and a lot of acquaintances that make my day very joyful.
How do you define a good friendship?
A friend is a person with whom I can think aloud. Who is that, Emerson? I think, anyway. And that's my best friendships are people that I can just discuss anything with, and we enjoy it.
How do you define a good friendship?
Mutual respect, mutual trust, honesty, having things in common, being able to laugh at yourself, at each other, with each other.
You look like a happy person. Are good friendships part of that happiness formula?
Very much so. I believe that friendships are the most important thing in our lives, and I'm actually a community psychologist, so I believe in communities, and I think friendships are a very important part of that. And I can't imagine a world in which people weren't connected by friends.
And how would you define your own personal definition of good friends?
People who care and are connected, and they're connected by a mutual desire to be helpful to each other and to take care of each other and support each other, and people who talk well to each other and listen. Friends listen.
I think that's a very telling video that talks about what the value of friendship and connection is and what social interaction means to all of us. Bill Bradley in the recent AARP newsletter, Bill Bradley, former senator, former Nick, former Princeton guy, one of our contemporaries, says the value of sports in life, everyone advances together or each person is diminished. And I think we need to remember that going forward, to have a little bit more optimism, to self-evaluate and go forward with passions that you either had and are reestablishing or with new interests. We hope this has been a little thought-provoking, and we hope that in the future, we hope to bring you more of a panel on different topics, but I thought it was important at this time of change to share my thoughts with you and to at least go forward with a positive attitude. We look forward to next month when we again shoot the breeze.